F sharp, A sharp, revisited.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to F Sharp A Sharp Revisited, the music review podcast where we have listened to music and we're going to tell you everything we thought about said music.
Just like always.
Yeah.
You'd think that we'd been doing this for 2 years or something.
Yeah. I am Joe, music critic, supervillain / reasonable person, depending on whatever album I'm talking about. And with me, as always, is my best buddy, Nick.
Oh, have I finally reached that stage?
Yeah.
I've finally
I think
been
so.
promoted to best buddy status.
Best buddy. Go. Why don't you tell the listeners a bit about your shirt that you've got on, Nick?
Okay, I am wearing a band t-shirt for the band The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. And it's just this big, lovely fat cat lying asleep, and on it says, "The world is a beautiful place and I am no longer meow, meow, meow." I'm cool.
It's one of the best shirts I have ever seen. I love it.
It's my favourite shirt.
Full endorsement from me.
I saw it just advertised online on their page and said, "We've got a few in stock," and they'd had them in America before, and they're like, "We're giving a few to you people in Europe," and I've never clicked anything faster in my life. I needed that t-shirt, and now I have it.
Oh, I'm very glad you did. Very glad you did. Anyway, we do have some new music to talk about this podcast.
God, so this year I've gone really overboard, and already in the space of just January, I've listened to about half as many albums as I listened to in the entirety of 2018.
Wow.
I've listened to 54 albums on my last
54?
count. Yeah.
Well, not even I've listened to.
Yeah.
I've listened to like maybe
And
25.
there were some quite high-profile releases actually this month. There was Bring Me the Horizon, the Dandy Warhols, and James Blake. So in typical F sharp A sharp revisited fashion, we've decided to cover none of those and go for things that most people won't have heard of.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, quite a lot of the high-profile releases have been a little bit disappointing, in my point of view. So,
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about that at all.
Well, Joe, are we going to start with something that we like or something that we don't like?
We're going to start. We're going to start with Fever 333.
Or is it Fever 333? Or is it Fever 333?
I don't know.
Or is it Fever 3...
It lasts for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that in the intro they have a crowd shouting 333.
Yeah.
333.
So this is their new album,
Yeah.
Strength in Numb.
Debut album, I think.
Debut album, Strength in Numb 333 RS.
Yep.
Which is the weirdest stylization of an album title I've ever seen.
At least they're trying to get some kind of brand consistency. I can respect that. I can also laugh at it.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to laugh at it. So this is an amalgamation of various members from various sort of high-profile new metal, post-hardcore bands, and this is their effort to combine the works of Rage Against the Machine and Linkin Park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
That's exactly what I've written down. They are a direct cross between the two bands that you've mentioned.
Well, I will add on to that. I've written down, it actually sounds like if 30 Seconds to Mars were a rap metal band.
This is also true. Also very true. So you can probably tell just by that last description. We're probably not the biggest fans of this album, I think we're going to say, but there are some good points about it.
I'm being completely straight here. There are actually some good things about it. I think the energy on this album is kind of incomparable. It's so electric.
Top notch. To be honest, I think all the good things and all the bad things about this album can be summarised in the first real track of the album, Burn It, because my goodness, that's got some good riffage going on.
This is where I disagree.
Okay. Well, I am a sucker for some nice, hard-hitting riffs that get me going in that Rage Against the Machine style.
I think that the riffs in that song aren't particularly interesting. What is interesting is the guitar tone they use at the very beginning. That's the only reason that I think that the riff sort of stands out. It's got that sort of a tremolo wah-wah effect going on it with a hell of a lot of distortion. I won't try and replicate it with my mouth because it won't sound.
You wouldn't.
It will sound awful, but it's really hard hitting. It's
The
really
sound
strong.
itself is really engaging, and that's pretty much the main thing I like about this album is the riffs. When they come in, they're engaging, and the production is pretty great. I'll give it this album.
I don't like the production. I think
See,
it's really overproduced and absolutely. It's so messy. Nothing has space to breathe in the mixes.
I think that works with the hard-hitting nature of the songwriting, though.
It just
Personally,
sounds like
okay.
too many ideas at once to me. Well, even when there's very little going on, it sounds like they've tried to just max it out.
Yeah, okay. So we've talked about potential good points about the album. I think it's time to talk about the bad points.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I don't think this album is offensively bad to listen to. I think it's just such a misfire. It's like I said, really good energy. It's clear they're trying hard on this album, but oh god, some of it is just laughable.
Oh, to me, it's just the lyrics.
Uh,
Okay, let's just say one of the main things on this album is police brutality, but suffice it to say that the lead singer slash rapper is no Kendrick Lamar.
no,
Let's-
it's just, I feel like on some of the songs they come out with these lyrics. Like One of Us, for example, one of my least favorite tracks on it. The lyrics don't really amount to more than, "Oh, people with power can use it, and that's scary, and we should do something about it."
Mm-hmm.
That's about as far as deep as that song goes lyrically.
Yeah. That's as deep as many of the tracks go
And then
lyrically.
you got some of the lyrics on Inglewood was for me the biggest culprit for bad lyrics, and it's got. Then my brother came home bloody. He was trying to keep the peace. Now I hear a whole new meaning when they scream "fuck the police."
Mm-hmm. Another point I want to make about the rapping on this album, that he seems to what's this guy's name? I did write it down somewhere.
He's the vocalist of Let Live, or used to be,
Yeah.
at least while they were still a band.
Yeah, the thing is, he seems to exclusively be able to write rap in rhyming couplets. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's one flow.
His flow is pretty dire.
It's literally like child rap. We've talked about child rap before. And
Do. That's sort of his style.
And the last word gets the emphasis every single time. There's no kind of variation, no run-on lines, no interesting rhyme schemes. It's the same thing all the way through, and it does sound like something a child would write.
Imagine being born in a hospital whose doors open up right into a cemetery. How's that for a metaphor?
Yeah, that
That was for me the worst line on the album.
That-
I laughed
yeah.
when that came up. And that, Inglewood, I think, it's the centerpiece of the album. It's the song that's meant to hit hardest, I think. And it's just laughably bad lyrically.
yeah.
Then they've got the transition from the opening, which is sort of
It's
more
balladly,
more
yeah.
balladly Linkin Park-esque, and then just suddenly it switches into just really aggressive, chaotic, sort of goes nowhere, like transition into. It's just really weird, so disjointed. Doesn't feel like it has any purpose. And the screams that he does on the second half of the track are just so pathetic.
Oh, the screams made me laugh. I think it was at the end of which one was it? I think it was the end of Pray For Me. He does a scream at the end of the track that just literally made me laugh out loud with how ridiculously over the top it was.
The thing is, with the very, very first track on the album, it's an untitled one. I think it's on Spotify. It's called Ellipsis, like 3 dots.
Yeah.
And it's just this sound of people chanting and this news reporter reading, but it's so hard to take seriously. Because, I mean, one of the things she says is these people are uniting in the name of progress. What does that even mean? Like, how can you generally unite in the name of progress as a concept? She talks about how this is a very focused yet rowdy group of people uniting in the name of progress. That's not very focused at all.
Yeah, and that kind of represents the lyrics throughout this album. Like I said, there's this theme of police brutality and all that within some of the lyrics, but like I said, it's no Kendrick Lamar. There's no real exploration of any of these themes, and it's just a very vague, angry at the world. That's what this album is. But yeah, I think I just want to go and point out some of the songs that I just want to laugh at for a little bit. I've already mentioned Pray For Me. Oh, that's another thing about this album. All the choruses are exactly the same.
Yeah. Like they would make Linkin Park look away in shame.
Yeah. Oh, it's that Black Veil Bride syndrome that you came up with. You've got the hook of the song, maybe throwing some woes and yes and whatnot. And yeah, Pray For Me is it's so bad. The hook is bad. It's basically the name of the song over and over again. Like I said, the verses sound like child rap. Like, and the lyrics, they're there's like these vague allusions to revolution and don't mess with the police. And then he kind of turns the song on himself, saying, "Oh no, I've become a gun. I'm a gun on the run."
And in the first two tracks, he declares himself as a gun on the run and as the end game. And it's just so hard to take him seriously.
Well, the thing is, it's like it's like he's trying to present some kind of internal conflict, because this album is, you can call it a protest album, but then he's like, "Oh no, I'm a gun. I'm going in with this culture," and it's just such a mess. It can only come from the mind of someone whose mind is a mess, quite frankly. But that's not for me to speculate. Actually, I'll speculate all night long.
Reading up about the past of the frontman, who I haven't written his name down, I just know him as the frontman of Let Live, who I've actually seen live. I went and saw Enter Shikari years and years ago, and I got there late, but Let Live was supporting them, and I got there just as he threw himself into the crowd, which I'd never seen before. I'd never seen a stage dive, and it was quite something. But they seem to have good energy live. He seemed to be pretty cool.
Oh, I can believe that.
But looking at his past, it looks like he does. You know, he has reason to be writing about these sorts of things. I just don't think he does it very well.
Yeah.
That said, you know, I didn't hate this album.
Oh, neither did I.
I could easily listen to it. I just, I wouldn't choose to. I mean, there are some bits on it that I thought were actually, pretty great. Like we said, the harsh guitar tone at the beginning of Burn It, and the bridge of the following track, Animal.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Is pretty good. There are some good ideas scattered throughout the album, but so much of it just boils down to ripping off Linkin Park and Rage Against the Machine, and actually just not really sounding as good as either.
Yeah, I mean, I give it a 4 out of 10.
I would
overall.
give it the same.
So yeah, I would say the last two tracks pick it up towards the end, so I'll give it that. But then, yeah, otherwise it's a skip.
Yeah.
I just thought we'd highlight it because it's funny. Actually, just to finish off, I'll read some lyrics out that I thought particularly made me laugh.
Okay.
So, from Burn It. "See, we always on the run, 'cause they be chasing us for fun. When the neighbourhood in pieces, they say pray and look to Jesus." Can you see what I mean by this child rap kind of rhyming couplets?
In Inglewood, you've got, "I grew up in a different world, but had a thing for Latin girls. She said, I'm not Hispanic or Latina, I'm Mexican, and that's por vida."
Oh, dear me. And then Out of Control, probably my least favourite song on the album. "Take back your noose and give me the truth, la la la. Don't light my fuse, I ain't in the mood, la la la. Tell me that I'm worth something." So yeah.
It's overproduced and laughable rap metal, and I just wish it had been better.
Yeah, I mean, I got a good laugh out of it, so yeah. Take that as you will.
One down. Let's move on to the next one. Quick. We're going to talk about a band, called, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Staat, something.
Mm-hmm.
This is their 5th album. It's called Bubblegum. They are a Dutch alt-rock band, and I think they came sort of into prominence when they supported Muse a couple of years ago on their Drones tour. I can see why Muse would want them to support them. What I got from them is think everything, but sort of more dancey elements to it.
And a bit more abrasive, I think.
Depends on what everything song you listen to, but yeah. This was the first album of the year that I think I gave multiple listens to, because quite a few of them I just sort of would listen to once or twice and then sort of go, okay, that's my opinion, moving on. This is one that I've come back to quite a few times. It's 11 songs and 52 minutes long, and it is catchy, fun, weird shit.
I'll definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I am quite a big fan of everything. So to hear this is also good to me. They do some really quite oddball songwriting. There's a lot of electronic elements to their alt rock, and I think that they've just got this really great songwriting style, and it's consistently incredibly interesting to listen to.
I would say that songwriting style does work better on some tracks than others, but we'll get a bit more into that. I do want to start off by saying which track is my favourite on the album, and that is the opening track.
I was going to say, I was going to guess it was one of 2 tracks, and Kitty Kitty, the opening track, was one of them, and that's quite potentially my favourite one as well. It is a fantastic beginning to the album. While I think that the message of it talking about Donald Trump is severely dated at this point, it's still quite funny referring to him as an orange
Yeah.
entertainer.
And
It's quite good.
the lyrics, I think, actually handle it quite well because I've come on this podcast quite a lot of times saying, oh, when musicians start talking about politics and it's just cringy and it's like, oh, I can't be bothered. But I feel like the lyrics are very simple in a way. They're short, snappy phrases that are quite descriptive and at times quite satirical as well. Big deal maker, orange entertainer, swamp it up gator kind of captures a very cutting critique in just three short phrases, which I thought was actually pretty good. So yeah, and I love the arrangement of the song. The whole arrangement is fantastic. You got this sliding bass line.
Oh yeah, I love the bass synth and the way it like sort of slides with the pitch up slightly.
Yeah.
It goes along. It's so good.
And I love how it gets that bit more, that distortion towards the end of the song as well, and the
Yeah.
synths coming in around it. It's kind of Radiohead-esque, but like very abrasive as well.
Like the hard hitting end to each chorus with the fuck up the facts, fuck up the facts, yeah, is great every single time. But then the final time it happens is so unexpectedly aggressive. I really didn't expect it coming from what I'd already heard because this song starts off a trend on the album, which is that they are really good at writing catchy songs. So catchy throughout the album, but this is the first time you hear how abrasive and like hard hitting they can really be, and that continues on other songs later on, even like in tracks like Pikachu as well.
Oh, I still don't know how I feel about Pikachu.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Pikachu. There's this dissonant synth in the chorus, which is really, really amazing. Let's talk about Pikachu actually, because I can't tell if I love or hate it. Because on the one hand, it's so slimy, but on the other hand, it's also quite hilarious. The Pikachu noise that the synth makes after the first chorus actually makes
Yeah.
me laugh every time.
Well, I'm not sure if you got the same interpretation as I did, but whenever I listen to it, I think it's a song about paedophilia. Is that what you got from it, or?
I got that it was about a creepy guy in a club checking out a woman, and it's got very sort of
Well, with
it reminded me of like the Bloodhound Gang songs like The Bad Touch. But I think the fact that the song is so just incredibly intentionally slimy,
yeah,
it sort of it presents itself as not, it's not like they're actually
it's not endorsing it.
it's not endorsing it at all.
Yeah, I
And
just think
the use of the play on the word Pikachu with peek at you is so awful, but clearly intentionally.
Yeah.
Or
I think can I just say I think that's where I got the connotations that I was getting from, because you got Pikachu as well, but there's the references to toys in the window, looking in, waiting at the bus stop. It's all good Hollywood. To me, that was all pointing towards a very specific direction.
Yeah, and that's why I can't tell if I like the song or not, because it might just be a little bit too creepy and slimy.
Yeah. I just think it's one of those subject matters where I struggle to really enjoy. Well, I can't enjoy it. It's just a weird spot on the album. I mean, compositionally, it's actually pretty interesting. The bass is simple but effective, and it kind of, even the vocal lines kind of come in as almost as if it's an electronic element layering on with its rhythmic patterns, and it's a weird spot on the album for me.
Well, while we're talking about less good tracks, I'll talk about my other least favourite one, because I have a lot of good stuff to say about this album. So the closing track, Luther, don't think it's a terrible track, but I think it could have been about 2 minutes shorter. It's one of these ones that just sort of builds up and builds up and builds up until it just sort of cracks at the end. But I think that the pacing of it as a slower track, while it has its good ideas, it's just a bit of a limp ending because it doesn't pace itself very well.
Well, I think, I got the same, but I think it was potentially a bit worse for me, because I do think the second half of the album isn't as good as the first half. So Luther was a very slow ending for me. Tie Me Down and Level Up as well didn't really do that much for me. So kind of just towards that half of the album, I do feel like I was losing a bit of steam with it. But yeah.
I quite liked a lot of the tracks on the second half of the album, but I will say that both of my favourite tracks are on the first half. The other one, apart from Kitty Kitty being I'm Out of Your Mind, I think is a great track.
Yeah.
I think that the vocal delivery and the drums completely throw me off the beat, which is quite an exciting experience for what's otherwise a sort of quite straight song, I think. Having the snare hit be on the fourth beat of each bar, for example. Once again, it's ridiculously catchy, and the synth in the chorus is so rough around the edges, it adds this great tension to the piece.
Definitely. Yeah, talking about favourite tracks, I loved Phoenix.
Oh yeah, Phoenix is fantastic.
But it starts off with this descending synth blast, and I'm hoping you can help me, Nick, because I recognise that from somewhere. There is a very similar sound used in some kind of song. I think it's a video game soundtrack, and I can't think of what it is.
I'll tell you what it sounds like to me, but you're not going to like it. It sounds exactly like the synths from No Love by Death Grips.
Well, it's definitely not that I'm thinking of, but it has this great ominous feeling to it, and then it comes in to the main song, which is a bit softer, and his falsetto.
This is when I started getting real everything vibes.
Same. I've written it down. Like when he goes into his falsetto, he does sound a lot like the singer from Everything. So that's something to note. But I do like his chest voice as well. I think he's got great control over it, and it has a great rock sound to it well. But just to conclude my thoughts on Phoenix, I love when the synth blasts come back in at the end of the song and the whole song is warping around the beat with those synth blasts. I think it sounds fantastic. So yeah, I love that track.
Something I loved about the synths on the album in general is they make great use of sidechain on tracks like Kitty Kitty and Mona Lisa and Phoenix to really set your pulse rating with the hard hitting drums as the synths go in and out with it. It's so great. But going back to the vocals for a second, I think that they're generally just pretty great throughout the album, and he's, like you said, he's got great control of his voice, sort of low and slimy on tracks like Pikachu, high and more emotional for Phoenix, and on Kitty Kitty he sounds like he's standing on a soapbox. It's great.
Yeah, exactly as he needs to.
I really enjoyed this album, and it is currently my favourite album of the year, though that will quite certainly change because we're only in January. Well, we were only in January when this came out.
We're early on.
Yeah, but I would happily give this a 8 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a great album. Some of the tracks could have been a little bit better in my opinion, but for the most part, a lot of great alternative rock tracks with electronic elements. So yeah, would recommend.
Yeah, I listened to a couple of tracks from their earlier stuff, and it sounds to be quite similar. There's a track they've got called Witch Doctor, which is wonderfully manic. I will definitely go back and check out some other things by them. That's 2 albums down, Joe. Let's keep going, and stop. We're not going to talk about an album now.
Yeah, so Nick Nick messaged me saying, Joe, you should listen to Borsky 2 by Comethazine, or Comethazine, no idea how you're supposed to pronounce it. I think you're going to really like it. So I downloaded it, used it as gym music, and I just laughed all the way through my gym session because the album is okay. Well, it's trap. It's your standard no substance hip hop album, and the lyrics are, quite frankly, some of the most laughable.
Yeah, it's something that gets me about this album is it's clearly very low effort.
Yeah,
because ever since Kanye came in and started going, hey, I'm going to release lots of albums that are about 20 minutes long, lots of trap artists, and kind of quite specifically trap artists have gone, hey, if he does it, we can put minimal effort in as well.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, this is like, it's like over 10 tracks. I think it's, what is it? Can't remember now.
It is. No, it's 10 tracks.
10 tracks.
About 24 minutes, isn't it?
17.
But
that's what I did remember.
Now, yeah.
17 minutes. Like most of the tracks are they're basically chorus verse chorus or hook verse hook, and that's it. And the beats are so completely forgettable. But some of the lyrics are very funny, so I've written them down, and I'm going to read them out from his song "On My Granny Kids." My bottoms are red; they don't come in blue. The Christian Lou, red bottoms, Sue Woo. We hit you with sticks, but we're not playing pool. Oh dear. From I Be Damned. Yes, that's really how this shit go. Made that bitch walk home 'cause I ain't have Uber app on my phone.
I remember that one now.
Oh, that's so funny. 'Cause I ain't have Uber app on my phone. Oh dear. Okay. Moving on.
I've got one.
Go on.
Your first name Benjamin, your last name Button, midget motherfucker, and you ain't scaring nothing.
Oh dear. That's the song where he just keeps on going. My name Benjamin. No, first name Benjamin, last name Counter. First name Benjamin, last name Counter.
And in the background to that song, you've just got this backing vocal that just goes bitch, 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 bitch for the entire song.
It's ridiculous.
I'd also just like to step in for a second and say that it's got some of the worst artwork I've ever seen on an album.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It almost looks like an 80s sci-fi kind of horror kind of thing going on, but
It looks like an early 2000s art student's first attempt at graphic design.
This is also true. Anyway, I've got a couple more from his song Hippopotamus. Your auntie gave me brain. Sorry.
I mean, that's bad enough on its own.
It continues. Knew she was gonna do it. Knew it was a rap when she told me she liked my music. It's like he's admitting his music is terrible. Oh dear, okay. And then last one, from How Do You Do? Actually, this isn't actually his lyric, but anyway, I'll continue. Me going broke is like a dyke in a dress. And what really made me laugh is that the lyrics website Genius, it has this ability, people can comment what their interpretation of the lyrics, and someone decided to actually interpret this line.
I remember that.
And they said, come in. It's not even that funny. Sorry. Comethazine explains that the chance of him going broke is impossible, just like seeing a dyke in a dress is impossible. This is because dykes do not possess feminine attributes, such as wearing dresses. Can we just all take a moment to massively cringe? Oh my goodness, some things I read on the internet.
Looking at just generally all of the lyrics on Rap Genius for this album, nearly all of them someone has put in the description of the song, this song is a banger. Literally every single one.
Literally every single song on that album talks about him getting his dick sucked and he carries a gun. And that is literally his entire lyrical content.
Yes, but is he a gun on the run?
No. He's too lazy for that.
Right, let's move on before I have a migraine.
Yes, let's move on. So, an album I wanted to talk about that I actually particularly liked, I'll just out and out say it right now, was Shimmer Into Nature by Ed Wynne, who is a psychedelic composer.
What's his surname?
Wynne.
Oh, so it's not Edwin.
It's not Edwin, unfortunately.
What if his name was Edwin Wynne?
Oh, that would be amazing. In fact, shall I do this now? I wrote a sonnet about this album.
Oh, Joe. Joe, that's nerdy.
Yes, it is. I'm waiting for you to tell me that you hated this album.
Just go and read your stupid sonnet.
Edwin, more like Edwin, my heart with this album.
Okay, no, that's enough. That's enough, Joe.
Okay, should we talk about the album?
I feel bad now because you've written this entire sonnet.
I mean,
I'm just going to put my fingers in my ears while you read it. How about that?
Okay, I'll nod when I'm done. Sorry, it's not as bad as the first line, I promise.
Okay, then.
It's not strictly an iambic pentameter, but here we go. Edwin, more like Edwin. Sorry. More like Edwin, my heart with this album. With sounds so soft, it's like they're being treated with talcum. Echoing electrics light up the air and transcend the power of the kick and the snare. Entrance me with birdsong and ambient synth. Peel back my eyes and give me a glimpse of the colours that stream out your mind into sound and land in the sonic sphere so gracefully unwound. The cowbell in Odd Plonk is a marvellous touch and as satisfying as the bass groove in Travel Dust. The xylophone in Warble is glorious, yet the doubled guitar in Glass Staircase has me beset with hot flushes. You beast, curator of sound, you have lifted this iron-cladded Scrooge off the ground.
That was the gayest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Thanks, Nick.
So I'd give this album a 5 out of 10.
Boo!
But on occasion, it could be a 7 out of 10.
Well, the correct answer is 8 out of 10. But
I think that this album sounds remarkable. I honestly do. I think that production wise and the way that like the tones on the instruments are some of the best I can just think of, period. Like, oh my god. And the performances on the album, insanely good. The guitar on all the tracks, the drums on Werble especially are what I aspire to be able to
yeah,
play. And it's also like really varied tone wise. You've got psychedelia, you've got jazz elements, you've even got one track which is very dub based,
mm,
which is really nice. But it's also unable to hold my attention, which is really a shame for me. Like I think it works better as a background listen, and this is when I think it could be a 7 out of 10 because I can really get into the groove of the tracks in certain situations. The other day I had a half day and I was walking home because my bus comes once an hour and I got there just too late. So I was walking home the 6 miles and I thought I will listen to Edwin's album, might as well. It's a nice, brisk, crisp, cold day with the sun shining, and I really got into the album on that day. But it's definitely very situational because on other days I just haven't been able to get into it at all. And I think my main problem with that is, sure, if I listen to it in the background, that's great. But as each song is structured very similarly, comprising of a whole heap of solos by different instruments coming one after the other, and there's none of them really stand out and grab my attention. I can't really compliment it as a background listen because they're solos. They're supposed to grab your attention.
okay.
So now tell me why I'm wrong, because honestly, I did really want to enjoy this album.
Oh, because the solos are great, and the point of this album isn't about grabbing your attention all the way through. It's about discovering how all the elements interrelate with each other, and it is like going on an adventure with the album. I mean, it isn't an album that grabs your attention in as much as there are hooks and melodies, but it's all about how the textures and the sounds evolve over time throughout the courses of the songs. And so when you're getting the slight reggae feeling coming in and out of Odd Plonk, which I love the title track for Odd Plonk. I love the name of that song. And the gorgeous bits of synth and ambience that come in at around 320, and they come in and out, and then of course you've got cowbell in the track, and they all come in and out of each other in very natural, explorative ways, and that's part of I guess, the journey of the album. I think you just kind of listening to the album from the wrong point of view. You need to allow the album to envelop you.
I've been told.
You have been told. But there is just so many highlights in the album. Like the bass work on the album is absolutely fantastic. I can start with that. I mean, the bass loop that starts off Shim is fantastic, as well as the bass lines in Travel Dust, again, fantastic. They loop in a way that's groovy, that allows the harmony to naturally progress above when you get the guitar solos and the synth layerings coming above it. The use of pitched percussion is great in the album as well. I've already talked about cowbell in Odd Plonk. Then you've got one of the best parts in the album in Warble, the mixing of pitched percussion with usual percussion about 4 minutes 20 in is just so damn satisfying. It's so great. Another thing that's great about this album is the dynamics. I mean, they're just great. Don't know what else I can say about that, but yeah, to me there isn't a second of this album where there's nothing uninteresting going on. So yeah, I really like this album.
More power to you.
More power to me.
I feel like I've been firmly put in my place.
Oh, you don't need to look so sad, Nick.
It's all right. I guess we'll just move on.
We'll move on. I'm glad I got to read out my sonnet, though.
It was good after the first line. That first line was really quite bad.
It was really bad, but that's what inspired me to make the sonnet, because I was thinking, Edwin, I'm sure I can make a pun out of this.
It's an Ed win-win situation.
Yes. See, even you're not immune to the puns, Nick.
I've never been immune to puns. I love puns. Puns are great.
Yeah. I think we should just wrap up by saying a few of the things that we liked in January, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm just going to get my spreadsheet open because I have a spreadsheet
Yes.
now.
Ooh.
It's
Do you want me
big.
to go first, or are you...
I can happily go first, talk about some
Yeah.
of the things. These are going to be things that I think I'm going to talk about things that are either sevens and above or threes and below.
Good idea.
So,
Yeah.
first of all, the new album by Shrezzers, their album Relationships, I gave a 7 to. It's metal. It's got some great songwriting marred by a lack of diversity in the second half, but god damn, the saxophone is so good.
Yes. Agreed.
You next?
One album I really liked was Matador by Red Rum Club, their debut album, which is kind of like pop rock with well-used brass sections. And I would recommend listening to the first track, Angeline, and if you like how that sounds, then continue listening.
That also got a 7 out of 10 from me. Another one that I quite liked was Angelo D. Augustine's new album Tomb. If you like Sufjan Stevens' album Carrion Lowell, you'll probably quite like that.
Yeah, I also really liked Steve Hackett's new album, prog legend Steve Hackett, At the Edge of Light, which I wouldn't recommend to everyone, but if you do like prog, give it a check, I would say.
I'm also going to recommend the new album by the Delines, which is called The Imperial. It's a sort of it's kind of country based, but not in the way that modern country is. I think it's quite soft and it's quite lovely, perhaps a bit too understated, but I love the vocals and the lyrics.
Yeah. Last recommendation from me for a full album, it is Remind Me Tomorrow by Sharon Van Etten, which was some really good kind
That
of
was another 7 out of 10 for
indie
me.
pop-ish type stuff.
I've got a couple of other 7 out of 10s, which I'll just read out quickly
Yep.
then. Old Solar's new album C got a 7 out of 10 from me. It's a post-rock album, which is a dead genre, but I felt like it breathed at least a little bit of life into it, so that was nice. Flotsam and Jetsam's new album, The End of Chaos, it's thrash metal, it does the genre well. Not enough new ideas to warrant a higher score, but very enjoyable. And finally, the new Alterage album, The Approaching Roar, which is quite possibly one of the heaviest albums I've ever listened to in my life. And it's just the sheer intensity of certain parts of it.
Yeah, I still need to listen to that album.
I mean, it's not heavy throughout, but the bits that are heavy are just so heavy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Black hole heavy.
And now for the albums that you should most definitely avoid.
Yeah.
So first of all, for me, the new album by Calijon, which is called Heartgeld Im Club, which is dance metal and is boring, badly mixed, and has some awful compositional choices.
Okay. I listened to Busted's new album.
I didn't know Busted had a new album.
They were my favourite band when I was like 8 years old.
Mine too.
So I listened to their new album that came out just 2 days ago. It's a 3 out of 10, kind of unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
But there's one song that made me laugh, in which they basically just sing about, oh no, we're middle-aged, we're getting fat. and they're like, oh no.
That's the sort of vibe I get from the new Papa Roach album, actually. I've never heard a song that sounds more, an album that sounds just more despondent.
Oh yeah, the new Papa Roach album. I think I gave that a 4 out of 10. It wasn't offensively bad, but I just found it...
I think I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing I've heard this year, though. The worst thing I've heard this year so far, it is actually a toss-up between 2 albums, but one that we're going to talk about potentially another day. But the new album by Afterlife called Breaking Point, which is new metal, I hated that album. I really, really hated it. It gets 2 out of 10. It's everything I hate about new metal.
Yeah.
I think one of the lines on it is the hardest part of letting go is learning how to hold on.
Oh, because of course it is. Wait, how does that even make sense?
Exactly.
Oh dear. And another throwback to the past, the Backstreet Boys released DNA. Again, it's another why are you still releasing music? Why? I demand an explanation for this nonsense. Yeah, it's just bad.
Yeah, just a couple of others for me. The new album by Future, I thought was one of the most boring things I've heard for a long time. And the new album by Toro y Moi, Out of Peace, which is Indietronica, was also incredibly boring, and the album by Comethazine, Borksy 2, we talked about that already.
Yeah. I do want to just kind of mention it, because we talked about some albums that were disappointments, the kind of first thing this podcast, but also Mono. Like, I'm quite into the Japanese post-rock scene, but Mono's album really disappointed me this year, and it made me sad.
I had to make a quick decision earlier today because I haven't been able to listen to much over the past week, so I've been trying to limit what I actually do listen to because I'm just not going to have time. And Mono was one of the ones I decided to take off the list because I knew exactly how I was going to feel listening to it.
Well, I just remember Hymn to the Immortal Wind, and that's a great album.
It is.
And Mono, they're capable of making some really beautiful stuff, but this was just very, very stagnant. Maybe post-rock is the dead genre.
Old Solar will save it. I mean, no one listens to them. I only found them through a recommendation on a Facebook page. But
I mean, the only post-rock artist I think that's still releasing consistently great material is World's End Girlfriend, in my opinion, but...
Yeah, I mean, Godspeed You Black Emperor let us down with Luciferian Towers.
I mean, I thought it was good, just not special, so...
Yeah.
Sad times.
There's one more album which I'm just going to mention that I really didn't like, and we are going to talk about it on a second half to this podcast, which we're going to release.
Yeah.
Weezer's The Teal album. I hate that album. I really hate that album. It is the most shameless, disgusting cash-in attempt I can think of.
I do not disagree.
I will talk about this more later.
Later. You are not safe, Weezer.
I need some time to cool down. So let's end this part of the podcast.
Yeah. Firstly, though, last thing, we're going to shout out our Gulag Keeper James's podcast.
He has a new podcast, which he is doing with one of his slaves.
Yes. It's called Sinkhole Podcasts, I think.
Yeah, The Sinkhole. Which one's Mr. Sink and Mr. One of them's Mr. Sink and one of them's Mr. Hole.
Yeah.
That should give you an indication of what the podcast is going to be like.
Yes.
We have listened to it. It's fun.
Yes.
So when that gets released, we will share a link to it somewhere. And, as always, we have social media and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. Don't use it much.
We hardly ever check it. So.
I mean, that's why we don't have much of an audience, to be honest. But oh well. Whoops.
Oopsie.
For now, I have been Nick.
I have been Joe.
And you've been listening to F Sharp, A Sharp Revisited.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. F Sharp, A Sharp Revisited.